I'm up next. The recording just started up again. I'll say hello again. So I think it's my turn now to present. I'm Michal. I represent the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies in Geneva. And you can see that I found a nice photo to put behind me as my background of the United Nations and all the different flags in front of it. We're literally just a few minutes walk from the headquarters for Europe of the United Nations, and I think that's quite symbolic for our school. I've prepared a little message for you in the chat with our email address and one of our websites where you can find different ways of connecting with us. Maybe before I continue talking, if somebody could just put in the chat if you guys can hear me okay? If the video and if everything is working. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen and start a presentation in just a minute. The presentation that I have is about all of our programs. Now, we're a very, very specialized school. As you'll see, we only teach programs in international affairs in the social sciences. So I can talk about all 6 of our master degree programs. And I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Graduate Institute and why we are who we are and where we are today. And because that is very, very important to understanding the kind of school that we are. So if you bear with me through that part, and then we'll get to talk specifically about the programs and about the students that we have. So feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have any questions. And at the end of the half hour, I also will go to the breakout room for more individual conversations or for more details while somebody else takes over the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen now. And what you can see, I hope you can see my webpage here, and you can see that this presentation actually sits on that same webpage that I just put for you in the chat. So you can go back and look at it anytime you want. So basically who we are and why are we here? So the Graduate Institute was founded in 1927, which is, as you will probably know, also the year that the League of Nations, not the year, just a few years after the League of Nations, which is the precursor of the United Nations as we know it today, that organization was founded in Geneva. So it was a time when the city of Geneva was beginning to really develop as a diplomatic capital, a hub where a lot of activity was going on between representatives of nation states. They needed a place to come together to argue without causing another war, to negotiate, to exchange, and of course Geneva, being in a neutral country, provided them with a perfect neutral, safe environment to do so. The Graduate Institute was founded around the same time with the specific mission of providing a place for training, for academic training for those new professionals of international relations, and also for the research. You need data, right? We need to know what's going on. We need some facts and figures, and even at the time. And so these were kinds of the activities, the 3 activities that you will see that continue still today and that really are part of our identity and our mission to even today. So before I continue about that, I just want to stop for a minute and talk a little bit about our student population. So we are a Swiss school. We are a Swiss university institute of higher learning, and we are fully accredited to deliver our master and PhD degrees. But we're kind of not really a Swiss school in some ways, because only about 15% of our students, you can see actually less when this graphic was produced, are Swiss. Our students literally come from all over the world. They come from over 100 different countries. They're very, very diverse. So when I talk to students outside of Switzerland, I say to them, if you're looking for a full cultural immersion into Swiss culture, this is not it. What you're getting here is a full immersion into cross-culturalism, multiculturalism, right? And this is really, really fundamental. And you will see this also reflected in our academic philosophy, I guess. When you come to study at the Graduate Institute, you're going to find yourself sitting in a classroom with people from all over the world who have a very different narrative, a very different identity structure than your own. People who have different beliefs, who see the world in a different way. When they studied history, they didn't have the world, or geography, they didn't have the world with the same central point that we do necessarily. And, their ancestors and their grandparents and their teachers and their textbooks did not necessarily describe the Second World War or whatever it was that they were studying in history class in the same way. Okay, and this confrontation can be uncomfortable. It can be a little scary, or it can be fun and interesting. It always brings out some kind of point of tension. And this is where a lot of wonderful learning opportunities actually take place. So the learning takes place in the interrelations between our students with the faculty. The faculty is equally international as well, and they all bring their own academic cultures and national cultures to the classroom. And of course, when you socialize with people from all over the world, you also are developing a lot of cross-cultural communication skills. You're learning to see things from other people's points of view. And this is very, very important for us. The ability to examine events that are happening in world affairs, historical, current, and making projections about the future by seeing things from different points of view, often at the same time, right? So this takes a little bit of maturity. It takes a little bit of distance, a critical distance, the ability to think critically, and it's almost like talking about empathy, right? Being able to see things from different points of view. And you will see this reflected in our approach academically, which is very transdisciplinary. So we don't tend to, look at things only from the economics point of view in the economics department, or only from the historical point of view. When we're training our students to examine what's happening in the world, we want them to be able to simultaneously understand that maybe this conflict is taking place because of the long history of these people, and also because of, maybe there are economic factors, and also politics, there is governance, there are political parties, etc. And maybe there are different cultures, maybe we're talking about different values, there are anthropological considerations as well. So all of this happening at the same time. And that's, that takes a specific kind of training and a specific kind of mindset. I could go on and on about this, but I'll stop here. I think I've said enough about this particular topic, and we'll move on a little bit. So these are the, 3 missions of the Institute, like I mentioned before: the research, the teaching, the academic training, and what we call forum activities, where people can come together safely to exchange. And we also have an executive education arm, which I won't dwell on today. That's not what we're here for, but you can find it on our website. So in addition to the degrees that we offer, we also have these 9 research centers that center around these different themes. And you can see that these are not specific to the academic degrees that we teach. They cut across them. So this gives our students wonderful opportunities to interact with the research community that comes from all over the world. We have funded research projects from the Swiss National Fund, from European financing, etc., internationally. And a lot of the professors that teach in the programs also work as researchers and vice versa. And so this really, kind of informs and is cross, fertilization of the different themes and the thoughts that are happening, and the publications staying very relevant and current. So this is really what you're here for. These are the MA programs that we offer. You've got the 5 academic disciplines and the interdisciplinary program in international and development studies. This is all we do. We don't teach anything else. So we're not a comprehensive university that teaches, chemistry and mathematics and, literature. We only teach these disciplines in the social sciences. As you could see before, we're very small. We only have 1,000 students. We're very niche. We're very specialized. We only do a few things, but we do them well, we would like to think. So the disciplinary programs are a little bit more focused. They give you a deeper dive into the discipline. And obviously, then you need to have some background in the discipline in order to be admitted. Now, you don't have to have a degree with exactly the same title, but you do need to demonstrate in your transcript that you have had a little bit of background at least. You can't study economics at the master level if you've never had an economics course in your life. It's going to be very, very challenging. The same for the other disciplines as well. You need to have some notion of who are the major thinkers and writers and what are the major theories and how the discipline has developed, even though you don't need a full degree. The interdisciplinary program is structured in a different way. We can accept here students of a slightly wider variety of backgrounds, of academic backgrounds at the undergraduate level. And this program is structured in a way where you are getting exposure to all the different disciplines, okay, plus some transdisciplinary courses, like I said before, that really train you to examine what is happening in the world, from all these different points of view. And also gives you the opportunity to choose from 7 specialization tracks where you can cluster some courses around specific themes. Okay, and we can look at that, the list of those specializations later. The other thing that distinguishes this interdisciplinary degree from the others is that it has a stronger emphasis on preparing our students for professional activity in the field. So we expect that more of these students will go directly to work in the international affairs fields than perhaps continue on to a doctoral degree or for further study, although that is possible too. And there are 2 very important components in the curriculum that we've included to make that happen. One is a couple of small or short skills-based workshops. These are non-academic skills that are very practical and or that will give you competencies that you will need directly in the field. So we've had things in recent years on working in digital platforms, how to present your services as a consultant, for example, how to do a budget plan, public speaking. I think we had a workshop on that. So you can see that they're very specific and very practical competencies. The other major component of this particular curriculum is the applied research project. So students will be put together in small teams, and every team will receive a real research mandate from a real international organization in Geneva or elsewhere. So it's not fictitious, it's not just for practice, it's a real thing. If they're asking for a paper, they really are going to present it at a conference or publish it, or it may be a business plan, etc. And the students then spend 2 semesters producing that particular project. Okay, so these are the special components of the interdisciplinary program that are a little bit different from the disciplinary ones. All of these programs are 2 years long. Students take courses for 3 semesters, and then the 4th semester is dedicated to writing the master thesis. So the PhD programs follow in the same disciplines. You can see that there is the continuity from the disciplinary programs to the PhD, or from the interdisciplinary program into the PhD, if you have already started, really kind of honing in on your area of interest, perhaps in your thesis. We have partnerships all over the world. You can look at the list of partnerships that we have currently, and I'm happy to report that apparently, in spite of the pandemic, we are going to be able to send students and receive students from most of these partners. A few universities are still not really allowing international travel, but most are opening up. And so if students decide to do the exchange semester, that will be the 3rd semester, and it will come instead of the applied research project in the interdisciplinary program. So I'll just go through the slide quickly so you can see kind of the scope of, where we have these partnerships and where we can send our students, but this list is not comprehensive. It keeps changing all the time. We do have a summer program as well. In the summertime, you can come for 1 week or several weeks. Each week focuses on a different theme. These are not certifying, you don't earn credit for them, but they can be a good way to confirm that you really do want to study this particular topic at this particular location. So typically students spend half a day taking classes with our faculty and then half a day doing site visits to various international organizations around Geneva. I'm going to skip right through executive education. You guys can come and look at that separately later. So what do our students do for fun? Again, we are a very, very small student community, so we don't have all the sports teams, etc., that you might find at other larger universities. We do have a great agreement with the University of Geneva, which is the big school down the street, and they have already presented, or they will present later on today. And so our students can benefit from their facilities in terms of sports, leisure, and cultural activities. our students tend to spend their free time really developing activities around the topics that they're interested in. So we have over 40 student initiatives at this point, and the initiatives focus on, we have a very small list here, migration or regional studies, etc. And they will organize professional and networking events, and also advocacy and activism activities around some of these. I'm going to skip over the well-being services. These are the facilities at the University of Geneva. In terms of what our students do at the end of their studies, about 75 to 80% of our students report being in compensated employment about 4 to 6 months at the end of after the graduation. Of course, because we have such a high number of international students, many of them are not able to stay in Switzerland, and they go back to their own countries or third countries for their employment opportunities, and a lot of students are able to stay with the international organizations in Geneva. And they tend to divide into 3 sectors fairly evenly. We have a lot of students going into the public sector, so these can be public administration, government jobs, or international civil servants with the multilateral organizations or the UN constellation of organizations that we have here. Other students will go into the private sector. So we have students working in banks and in the consultancy companies, multinationals, etc. And then we have also students working in what we call the third sector, which is the non-governmentals, the nonprofit associations, entrepreneurial ventures, etc. And a smaller number continuing on to PhDs and then to academic careers. Our career service has 3 types of activities to support students in their career search. They will do one-on-one coaching to talk to students about their career goals and how to get there. They do a lot of specific training on the skills that you need for your job search, and they also put students directly in touch with potential employers through events, roundtables, and workshops, etc. We have alumni all over the world that students can connect to when they need help leveraging, the local professional network when it comes to finding jobs and other contacts and networking. And of course, I don't know how much you all know about Geneva. I imagine quite a bit, but we are now counting, I think, almost 900 international organizations in Geneva. So like I said before, the multilateral organizations that have their headquarters here, the UN constellation of organizations, non-governmentals, advocacy, and so on. So lots and lots of opportunities for people interested in those kinds of activities and careers. And this is just an aerial view that can show you the sheer density of these organizations in Geneva. And I don't know if you can see my mouse, but if you can see, the Maison de la Paix is the name of our campus, with these petal-shaped buildings. We're kind of smack in the middle of that neighborhood here. We are still running over 400 events and conferences every year, even with the pandemic, even having to go online for a lot of these. So lots and lots of opportunities for students to meet and interact and hear the wisdom and the debates and the arguments between thinkers, heads of states, scholars, etc. We're still very much fulfilling that mission today as we were, in the last century. We have 2 residences for our own students, so we should have room for just about the entire student body, and in these 2 residences. So we're very proud to be able to house everybody, even though we're very small. So I think we covered a lot about the admission criteria. You do need to have a bachelor degree. It doesn't have to be in the same topic, but it has to be close enough that we can be reassured that you have enough sufficient preparation to do well. We don't work with grade cutoffs. I think you'll hear that probably from a lot of schools. So I'm not going to say, oh, if you have below or above a certain grade point average, there's no way, or you're guaranteed to be admitted. Our admission process is competitive, it's selective. And so we will also be comparing your file to the rest of the applicant pool in a given year. On average, about 40% of our applicants gain admission to the Graduate Institute. There's a little bit of variance between programs, but that's roughly where we are. So the application process is online, And we still have an open application deadline. You can still apply until the 1st of March. I'm going to stop my presentation here, go back to the main screen, and open it up for questions. So